get themselves some points from this encounter. Maybe take us through, Nick. What's on the line for these teams? What ultimate prize are they playing for?
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, there's that spot to Croatia, split Croatia that we spoke about. The land finals will be held in mid-March, I think the 17th and 18th of March. Already we know the likes of Team Immunity from Australia have qualified from our region, but some teams have received direct invites. I'm talking about Navi, I'm talking about Virtus Pro, I'm talking about, I think also Envious. So they're the sort of caliber of teams, and this is going to be a truly international event when we get to these land finals. Certainly you'd have to think that these sort of American teams with some of the other bigger names in the American scene not able to participate in CounterPit, this is certainly an opportunity in which I think they would relish to be able to get that international experience, to be able to represent their country overseas and try and make a name for themselves. Something though, when I think about Overpass, Jim, one of the reasons why, when I think about why Enemy have had so much success on their CT side, more so than other maps in which their CT perhaps has let them down a little bit, or has been the weaker of two sides, is that I think it's probably in the map pool, the map that lends itself best to changing up your style of AWPing. By that I mean they've got a star player in the form of Booster, and there are just so many things that you can do on CT side Overpass with an AWP. You can push up A long, you can push up towards the A stairs at Fountain, you can push down the stairs if you're that way inclined. Of course, there's the B bomb side as well. You can AWP from Heaven, or if you want to go aggressive, you can AWP down Monster. There are so many different things, and it makes it so difficult for a terrorist side when you're coming up against a strong AWPer, be it Kusta or be it any other example of a strong AWPer around the world. You take your choice. It can be so difficult in knowing what position they're going to be playing in, and you can waste so much time and waste so much utility in trying to flush out and clear areas in which you think they could possibly be playing, but ultimately prove not to be. That's why it can be so difficult when you're up against a dynamic AWPer such as Kusta on this map.
Not to mention that the array of boosts that are actually available on this map too really lends itself to creative CT play. And as you said, just playing that hide the AWP so well, and that's going to be key for me to Enemy actually advancing and taking maximum points from this encounter, taking the 2-0. It's a scary prospect, of course, for SKDC. I don't imagine they would have a great deal prepared. I mean, you can argue that they let it slip through the veto, but we all saw the veto. I swear they were AFK for it.
Well, I've never seen a veto in which the team had been timed out and had their map choice chosen for them as a result of not choosing something. That in itself was a little bit of madness, but we will see here. Bot Xavier, surely this can't be live. They trolled me. I thought it was live. No, it's not. They were just restarting. But you're right. Obviously, the vetoes didn't go as planned in the sense that poor old SKDC were AFK for the vetoes and by default found themselves playing on Cache. But in any case, Overpass. This was a map that Enemy chose. It's a map in which they were prepared for. And I just struggled to see when I look at that AWP matchup, which looks to be, to me, Kusta versus Invert, from what we can at least see on Cache. Certainly, I'm the first to admit that I haven't had as much experience watching SKDC as some of the other American teams. Like we said, they've been on the cusp of that sort of pro level, invite level for a while now. They've had lots of lineup changes. They've been known and have that rep going as a bit of a feeder team. And it hasn't necessarily meant that I've had the same opportunity to watch them as I have some of the other teams. But certainly that Invert versus Kusta AWP matchup will be key for me. Invert clearly is hitting his shots today, but can he keep it up on a map like Overpass, in which I think it will be more difficult to match up against Kusta for him? We'll have to see. But what do you think from an SKDC perspective, Jim? Do you think they'll be wanting to start out on T or CT?
It's a bit tough to say. I mean, I feel like they want to be starting out on CT. That way they can control at least the pace of the match early on and really try and chase it on T. Because I just feel they need to get some rounds on the board early. They need some confidence, per se. After that first map, they really were outclassed in the later stages of the map. So anything they can do to boost their confidence at this stage and really get the jump on Enemy, that'll be key. So I would be imagining them to try and start CT because, as we said, they can really control the tempo of the game with the early on aggression and forcing the T side to really take their time and check and clear all the angles.
It's interesting as well, given that we're, I guess, terming this team a Canadian team. Something that we don't talk about, doesn't get as much attention as some of the other big name Canadians, which are sort of scattered about throughout different teams. I mean, obviously in this match we've got Ocean, Els and Twist, but I mean players such as FNS, Daps, Stanislaw, Nafly, Shroud, there is that Canadian talent, but for the most part, they're scattered out across other different teams. Whereas there's a lot of players that are all come together here. Some of them, such as Ocean and Els and even Invert, I think have been together for a while now and sort of building up the team, growing it organically. But it's always interesting to see that different mix of players. I liken it to perhaps the Australia and New Zealand mix of players that we have in our own region, Jim.
It's a very interesting mix of players, isn't it? Because what they do bring to the team is so varied.
Well, their accent's different.
Well, of course. I mean, you know, of course they bring Russell Crowe to the table as well. But nonetheless, for anyone else, he is, of course, New Zealand. We're going to quickly have to retry to the Go TV, though I don't believe mine has actually kicked me out.
Well,
It's booted me out.
Yeah, me too. It wasn't as though it had just asked us to leave. It was quite an aggressive manner in which we were booted out.
It was forceful.
Well, it was. To be honest, a little bit offended by the manner in which it was forced, but hopefully we can get back in. Because it wasn't a personal thing, Jim, because both of us were kicked in. I could understand if it was just you, but no, it was both of us. So it must have been an innocent action.
Yeah, of course.
In any case, though, as hopefully we can get that rectified ASAP, in terms of this matchup and what's next for SKDC, obviously we're very near towards the end of this CounterPit season, yet here we are watching them on their first night of competition. If I'm just looking at the schedule now, they've got a busy schedule because whilst they're playing Enemy now, they've got Splice tomorrow, then Winter Fox, then NRG. They've got a short span of games. So they're playing 4 games in 4 days here. Do you think that, I mean, what's your take on that? Other teams have spread them out. Do you like the 4-4 condensed format that these guys have opted to go with?
It really depends on the team dynamic. When your team's sort of red hot, you really relish the chance to play all of your competitive matches in a week where things are just clicking for you. On the flip side of things, you can really suffer as a team if you're having an off week and all your matches happen to be scheduled for that 1 week. So look, it really can, I guess, work both ways for you, and it'd depend on the team. It'd depend on how they're feeling. Of course, they would be mentally preparing for the fact that they actually have to play all of their matches in such a small time period. But other than that,
it's not just that though, is it? It also gives them the opportunity, I mean, to sit back and watch their opposition play. I mean, now we're up to the 6th game, if my maths is correct, 6th of 10 games that will be played out over the course of the season. Obviously with 5-team round robin BO2s, there will be 10 matches. So it's meant that they've been able to sit back for the first 5 games and watch their competitors play, get a read perhaps on the different game styles and the strengths and potentially weaknesses that they could exploit of their opposition. Certainly they didn't exploit much in the way of the first map. They did lose it. But at least they did put up a strong showing. I mean, they got a lot of CT rounds there up in the face of some of that aggression that Team Enemy was showing. And certainly Enemy were undoubtedly the favourites coming into this match for a 2-0 sweep. So I think there are positives to take away for these guys. And I think that for them, the key will be moving forward in terms of can they keep the same core lineup together? Can they move forward as a team and grow from this experience? Because you look back at some of the recent names in which they've had in their lineup. I mean, obviously today we've got Ocean, Els, Invert, Ruru, and Twists. Just recently, FGB has left the team. We've already mentioned the fact that Stewie was recently their Hades. I'm not sure. Hades, I think.
Hades.
Wabbit. What an interesting alias that is. Ape. So my point being, they've gone through a lot of different players in their lineup over the last couple of months, and it can be difficult for a team that's going through that sort of transition process, trying to find a roster composition that works well to you to instantly start putting good results up on the board. And I think that's what we've seen from them. We've seen that recently in the RGN Winter Classic competition. We've seen that perhaps so far in CounterPit as it starts to unfold in front of us at the moment. And I think that their expectations should match and should be appropriate with, I think, their form and their history coming into this competition.
It's always difficult for a roster to hit the ground running, isn't it? Particularly when they've made so many changes in such a short period of time, and then have to put on their best show, really, to try and compete in such competitive leagues as CounterPit. Obviously, where there is a spot on the line, these teams by no means will be experiencing any sort of cakewalk, as we've seen. I mean, the favourites early on have really experienced a lot of difficulty. So I guess there is the opportunity for some of these teams, if they're having a hot week, to really do some damage in this competition. But on the whole, it's tough for those newer teams to get going and really hit their stride.
No, you're right. And just to reiterate for everyone out there, you're not missing any action. The players are actually changing servers at the moment. We've been duly informed by the great admin team that CounterPit have. So bear with us whilst the players find which server they'd like to play in. We'll aptly jump into the Spectator Go TV for you and bring all the action. But Jim, I just want to make a note here. I mean, obviously, we're from Australia. You can find us on Twitter at Deep Impact for yourself and at PK Noodle. But the point I'm making out here is that we like to do our research. We like to do things properly. So currently, I'm on the website of Sapphire I can't say that word, SapphireKelowna.com, SKDC's full name, which is, of course, a nightclub in Canada. So just to bring us up to speed, make sure we're doing our research.
Canadian nightclub, what's all that about?
Well, I'll tell you, mate. The 4 keywords which they pride themselves on are safe, sexy, energetic, and style. That's how they define themselves.
I haven't seen that yet on their T-side.
Well, apparently it's... No, neither have I. Haven't seen much of that at all, but apparently I won't read that sentence out, but apparently it's got your night covered if you choose to go there. It's a cut above the rest when it comes to unrivaled selection of tasty drinks and the hottest vibes on the dance floor. So I've got no idea how these guys are associated with Counter-Strike, to be honest. But Jim, if you're looking for high energy dancing with a polished atmosphere, Sapphire, SKDC, is the place to be seen and to see.
Well, I'm a man that's all about a polished atmosphere. So if they can get their tunes right, I'm there if I'm ever in Canada.
Well, that's right. You are taking a lot of pride in the soundtrack, your Spotify list in which you're playing between matches. You duly remind me every time someone in Twitch chat says something positive about the music, you feel the need to let me know. But apparently this SKDC nightclub in Canada, it would suit your needs, Jim. But a polished atmosphere. I'd like to see a polished game coming out of Team SKDC on this next map, I think.
I'd hope so, because they need to salvage some points in this encounter. If they're not careful, they could find themselves on the receiving end of some whoppings, because we've seen some good stuff from the other teams here in the bracket. We've seen some good stuff so far from Energy. I think they really surprised everybody with how polished they looked after such a short period in time. But of course, Enemy, who they're up against right now, we've seen their credentials. We've seen them playing, I guess, a little bit more, well, I dare say inconsistently.
I think that's the best word. And I think that's really a sign of a young team. I think that inexperience, I think that inconsistency just will come through in their gameplay sometimes. Sometimes just for little spurts, maybe rounds here and there, or maybe a half in a match if they're not quite hitting their shots. But I think that's a really good assessment of what we've been seeing from Enemy. When they're playing well, they look like the best team in the competition. I think that goes without saying, and it justifies their great performances on LAN recently. You can see why they beat all these teams. But when they're having those little patches where perhaps there's some indecision there or some mid-round situations, they're making some funny decisions that are putting them in bad spots, then you can sort of see that they've still got some learning to do as a team. But I think best case scenario for these guys is that they continue to keep playing. They continue to watch these demos, watch as much Counter-Strike as possible, and then just iron out those kinks, because there's so much potential in this team.
There is a lot of potential. I guess you could almost transpose that sort of model onto any young team. There is always that potential there. Obviously, things pan out a little bit differently over the course of a team's lifespan, but there is definitely potential in some of these younger teams, namely that Enemy GG roster. And I think when we talked about all the teams in this bracket, we glossed over Winter Fox a little bit too. I think they're probably a key example of inconsistency at the moment. We've seen some brilliant play from them, but then we've seen some absolutely lackluster performances as well. So I think if there is a word to perhaps even describe the entire bracket at the moment, it's inconsistency. At the moment, it's really anybody's league.
Yeah, and I'll definitely respond to that point. I just want to make sure first that your GoTV is working, because I'm back in now, and all the players are in waiting for us, which is good. So if you're working, we're all groovy. But yeah, no, Winter Fox, I mean, we've already spoken about them in the sense that I think we've seen flashes of brilliance. I mean, the comeback today on T-side Cache is a perfect example of that. Obviously, I don't think Energy were playing their best in that second half, but full credit still must go to Winter Fox. But they haven't yet won a series. Winter Fox have played 3 series, and they've drawn them all 1-1. And for me, that's a really worrying sign, because this should be a team that was coming in as, I guess, the team to beat in my eyes. I think given all their record, given all the information we know about them, given all their sponsorship, there's no real reason why they should be struggling so much, in my eyes at least anyway, and something just doesn't seem quite right in the team at the moment. I mean, you only had to look at that really cool documentary, actually, which they released recently, that Pride documentary, in which after they lost at the MLG America Minor Championship, and they got knocked out in fourth place, I do believe it was. Really, the team, there was just so much frustration there within the players. They seemed to be citing a lack of trust amongst each other, and really just the chemistry wasn't there. And I mean, I've heard Moses say before, because he obviously knows these players a lot better than we do, that these players in the team, such as Anger and whatnot in Winterfox, they're some of the players that take losses the hardest out of every player in which you could possibly imagine in the Counter-Strike scene. So you can only imagine that combined with their sort of inconsistent results must be a bit of a tough environment for the guys at the moment. But in terms of this match, I think Enemy and SKDC, obviously Enemy must win tonight. They've won this first map on Case Gym. Now it's their opportunity on their map choice to really push home and get that 2-0 win, and that'll really set them up well with that opportunity to get that first place in that trip to Croatia.
Yeah, that would put them in prime position, and I'm certainly of the opinion that they'll be relishing that chance and hopefully taking it on with both hands and grasping it, because the opportunity is real, it's there, and it's theirs potentially for the taking.
That's right. I think all the players are now in, so we should be Gucci.
Coaches included.
Coaches included. It's an interesting point. We do see Ryu, the coach, or Ryu, the coach, an ex-player, actually, of Team Enemy. I'm not too familiar, though, with the coach of SKDC, Heino. I must admit, that's a name that I don't think I've ever seen before, so I apologise in that regard. But, I mean, obviously, he's adding that extra perspective.
Heino or Heino? Because if it's Heino, I know nothing about him.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God, Jim. Well, we're now live with the knife round. I'm just going to persevere and pretend that never happened. We do see...
Is that so long you can do that for?
We will see some evisceration. Is it evisceration or evisceration? How do you
Evisceration.
Evisceration, as they do slash, stab. Really, it's quite brutal, to be honest. It's not a surprise that this is MA15+ when we see this sort of stuff happening. Lucky running away, but only for so long, as he has two CTs in hot pursuit at the moment. Els and Ruru, they want a piece of him. And oh my God, I thought Els nearly threw that as he pulled a decoy grenade into his head the moment that Lucky actually turned around and charged. So that could have gone horribly wrong for SKDC. That was actually hilarious to watch. But as it is, SKDC, I'm glad that they don't have their choice of map sides, because I think a team that's really the underdogs in the competition, certainly in this matchup, certainly one that's just come off a loss on the first map, at least any sort of positives that you can find for them in this sort of situation is going to be a good thing. It'll give them some more confidence. And it looks as though they will be staying on the CT side, which is what you'd suggested perhaps in the pre-game.
Yeah, just easing themselves into that match, really controlling the tempo from the get-go, because the onus on overpass can fall into the CT's court to really control that tempo. And if they show some aggression early on, it's really going to slow down those T rounds and take the time to check those corners. So I know Enemy are a big proponent of doing that themselves. Funnily enough, I think last time we saw Enemy on this map, it was Kusta that was getting himself in those really forward positions, particularly up near Picnic. So it's not uncommon to see that sort of play. And nonetheless, we'll finally go live into this pistol on the second map.
That's right, of course, the first map went the way of Team Enemy. We now are on Overpass, which is the second and final map in this BO2 encounter. With Enemy, we've got Kusta, Lucky, Mainline, Relics, and Uber. And of course, for SKDC, we have their outfit of Invert, Ruru, Ocean, Twist, and Els. And we do see this early aggression from the CTs. We spoke about perhaps that aggression from them. Well, 4 members pushing up towards the A fountain/stairs area. And as poor old Enemy comes streaming up the stairs, they're going to be met with a horrible surprise there. And that is 4 waiting members of the counter-terrorist team, and they've absolutely wrecked them all. Uber does manage to salvage one frag in that situation, but there's 3 more members still to contend with on the counter-terrorist side. And I don't know if that was a counter-strat or just perfect placement from SKDC, in which they're able to so perfectly shut down that aggression there from Team Enemy. But Uber, he wants to make a fight of this. He does drop Ruru there. Tasty little frag, grabs another one as well, so let's hold our horses for a second. That's the 3rd one, so from a 1-on-4 down to a 1-on-1 now. Off the back of some brilliant block shots, he now finds himself with so much map territory and possibilities at his disposal. We see him moving towards long, and what a great read this is. We can see Ocean here doesn't have a kit on the wrong side of the map, as well as he's potentially suspecting that old mate Uber would be going towards the B site. You can see Uber there. Was that throwing a decoy grenade towards A? Trying to sell a bit of a fake, now moving back towards B, which is where Ocean is. It's all back and forth at the moment. Who's positioning? It's ultimately, I think, at this point, just a matter of luck, as we do see both players swapping bomb sites again. So Uber will be making his way into the B bomb site, and we'll get a plant here. And now, Jim, the potential for this 1-4 is very real. Ocean, he would have heard those bomb noises. Can Uber, though, get himself into a good after-plane position? They're moving towards each other. This should be Ocean's to win. Oh, but Uber rips his head off there. 24 points of health. He does catch him off guard in the 1v4. Oh, would you believe it? That was their round to lose, but Uber had other ideas. The young Canadian talent, he does convert an enemy in the best possible fashion, continue off in the vein of their dominating case.
Just rocking out with his Glock out. 1 versus 4, making it look so simple as well. It wasn't really anything other than CT aggression completely being punished by, but nonetheless taking the pistol round for enemy and pulling it out of the fire.
Yeah, I mean, that's an unbelievable performance. By no regard should he have won that round. I mean, SKDC, they were set up perfectly on that pistol round. I love the way in which they pushed so aggressively to Fountain, getting information, and they would have heard the stream of footsteps coming through the underpass connector and up the stairs, and they shut it down so well. But Uber, I mean, that's just a moment of pure brilliance from the man. That is highlight worthy. Those frags were top-notch international quality headshots there, and his team will certainly be loving that at the moment. You can see they are in an anti-eco round here, Jim, and SKDC opting to stack the A bomb side.
And it could be a good read here, actually, as Kusta just makes his way up along here with a few teammates who will try and get their way in. Of course, that bomb is actually committing onto this A site as well. Not able to dismantle the crossfires early on has really hurt enemy as they finally get that bomb plant down. Invert's able to do some damage with that USP, and of course Kusta moving around that bomb box, finding the last 2 members in Ocean and Invert, minimising the amount of damage that they could potentially do in that round.
Yeah, look, let's be real. Whilst SKDC did get a few frags that round and made something of that tough situation, I think their souls would be shattered right now at the way this match has started, being in such a strong position. That was a soul-shattering beginning to this second and all-decisive map here on Overpass. We can see, of course, SKDC opting to just buy a few pistols, trying to keep up that economy so that they can have full weaponry and utility next round, which will be the gun round. But they're mixing things up here, which I do find quite interesting. I like it. You can see this time they are pushing 3 members up A long. They do have 1 at B and 1 in towards the mid toilets, just keeping an eye on things. But I like the fact that they're still willing to try things, still trying to catch enemy off guard, and it's working in the sense that they're still finding frags, just not able to get that round win on the board just yet.
No, they're just... Oh, Ruru opens the account with a nice crisp 1v Deagle. How you going today? That's what Ruru wants to know as he asks the question. But of course that bomb is going to make its way towards that B site. And now, whether or not they can pressure this site and just try and take a few more guns here, that'd be ideal situation for SKDC as they now set their net around this B site. Of course, Els actually picks up that frag with the 5-7, so they're actually going to make a go of this. They're going to put some pressure onto enemy as the CZ trade comes in. Great work from Twist, actually picking up 2 frags. Ruru completely blindsides Uber, and blink and you will miss it. That site has been retaken.
Deary me, I'm not sure how enemy lost that. I mean, all they had to do, they got the bomb down. They just had to set themselves up well for the post plant, but seemingly caught off guard there as the CT retake. Very heavy monster and short presence there. Caught them in the backs, but really inexplicable for enemy. Just another glimpse of perhaps the inexperience coming through, where we're seeing little patches, little periods in games in which they're not making the best decisions and they're getting punished as a result against better class teams in America and on the international scene. They can't afford to be making such sort of mistakes. You can see, though, they have fully invested into this round. I think that they will be trying to mix up the pace, though. Judging off the overlay, they're streaming towards the B site, Jim, and they're keeping that aggressive tempo going.
That's it, and they're going to try and make their way towards this B site early on. As you can see, they're controlling the sewer and trying to make their way in through short. The smokes come in, block off that vision from heaven, so any moment now they're going to try and stream in through construction. They do manage to do so just that. The troll bridge, Kusta's making it his own with that Tech 9. Invert finds a reply, but Ocean makes his way around the pole and unable to pick up 2 frags in that situation. But that orb of Invert does find Relics trying to escape the site. Mainline and Lucky are both approaching B from the same angle, and of course the 2 remaining members of SKDC have some suspicion that that's where they could be. They do have the information that they are not in that monster tunnel at all. That smoke is just shielding the diffuser, and they've stuck that. But of course, Lucky finding the frag through the smoke. Of course, there's not going to be enough. That 40-second diffuser. Oh, sorry, the bomb timer comes in, plays a massive factor in that clutch, and SKDC survive that scare from enemy.
Yeah, I'm glad you corrected yourself, because the prospect of a 40-second defuse would be nightmarish for any counter-terrorist team, I think, especially with the 40-second bomb timer. They'd literally have to defuse as it was laid down. That could be
a problem.
It could be a problem, but fortunately, no, it is just the 5-second defuse, given the fact that he had the kit. But enemy, again, they're in a good position to win that round, couldn't convert, and forcing the issue again. This is something we're seeing from them, this proclivity to force the issue with the economy and try and break the bank of SKDC. Of course, we can see that SKDC are fully invested, but if they were to lose this round, they'd be in a tough spot financially. So that's what enemy are keeping in the back of their minds at the moment. They're going towards B. They did have success there the last 2 rounds, at least in terms of getting into the site. Not so much closing out the rounds, but Ocean doing a good job of getting the first frag. But Kooster again proving a bit of a menace with that Tech 9. Gets one. Lucky with one as well onto L's there and really countering that frag from Twist. So we find ourselves again a 3-on-3 post-plant situation. The retake skills of SKDC getting put to the test here. They've been successful 2 times now in a row. Can they make it 3 out of 3? We do see Lucky there. Caught off guard, trying to punish the play there at the barrels, but Ruru has his number, and as Ruru converts the second, should get the third as well, and does. Good work by him, and SKDC doing a great job here of controlling the pace and really reasserting themselves on the B side after the bomb has been planted.
Yeah, enemy are doing a good job of getting into that B site, but unfortunately that retake is strong from SKDC, and they're getting cleaned up. They're not really allowed to advance out of that B site at all. Normally you see teams actually getting those frags and pressuring up through the water there up to the jungle area, but of course not being able to do that. Great holds coming in from SKDC as they're going to try and pressure this B site early on. In fact, it is Uber that picks up that first frag onto Ocean in the heaven, as they do get that bomb down in the site now, and that retake skill that we talked about is going to definitely be tested here, as all 4 members are locked out of this site so far.
But the difference is, though, that SKDC were almost stacked towards the A bomb site, so this time they're having to retake from almost the complete opposite side of the map. Lucky, they're all chiming in with frags, nice double for him there, but this is completely different. Like you spoke of, their success in previous rounds was the fact that they had those fast rotations, and they were there to really stop the T's pushing up and setting themselves up well in B. But this time, with 4 members stacked towards A, it meant that after Ocean went down, mind you, went down with a flash in hand. I've got no idea how that's even possible when you're the sole defender on a site. But as he went down early, there was almost no chance that round for SKDC. So good work by enemy, persisting with B. They've now, by mere force, established themselves on that B site, made it their own, and we will now see SKDC in one of those tough situations where they're trying to balance the economy amongst their teammates.
That is a complete juggling act, and of course, it is key if you want to get yourself through some tough CT situations. SKDC obviously managed to do that, and fairly healthy too with that utility. I think the only person that's got questionable utility is Ocean, in fact. But of course, a slightly different approach from enemy this round. A little bit more relenting on that B side, at least early on.
That's right, you do see that initial tag onto Invert there. So the AWP's already down to 17 points of health. I think they actually pushed up towards the fountain / statue area there, trying to catch a glimpse of enemy. Well, they did that. Unfortunately for his sake, he copped an AWP shot to the foot there and had to back off. Kooster there winning that little mini duel. We do see that enemy complete map control at the moment on the overlay. They're just working their way up through mid quite safely. Mainline, the in-game leader, has so much information and knows that SKDC are playing so passively in the side. I like this counter boost that they've got going here. It will catch mainline off guard, but still, they're going to have to keep on their guard because they don't have much position in which to move now in the A side.
And they are taking their time, of course. That boost really effective in finding mainline, trying to push the toilets there, trying to get some information for his team. They know that AWP is at A and will structure their round accordingly, but of course L's pushing for some information, and really they already had the man advantage there, so Lucky capitalising on that mistake from the counter-terrorists. Now, with only 39 seconds remaining on the board, they are going to have to make their decision as to where they go. Great work from Twist, picking up the double, more importantly, felling the bomb in that awkward position now, as enemy have to try and salvage this round. Really, they're going to have to try and kill everyone, because I don't see them trying to get to that position, as Twist actually gets himself into an even better position now with that bomb down. So really making these T's work for it. Relics gets his way around the truck, does get that frag on Invert and force the 2 versus 1, but unfortunately that bomb is just going to be too far away from him to try and get into this round. Of course, just content to try and save his AK. Good work from I believe, Twist in that situation, who just maneuvered himself around any incoming terrorist so well.
Yeah, fantastic job. I mean, we spoke about how well he was performing on Cache alongside Invert. Well, if we look at the scoreboard, Jim, surprise, surprise, who are the players at the top for SKDC? It's Invert and Twist again. They're just really having a fantastic night, but we saw last map that that wasn't enough to get SKDC over the line, so I'm glad to see that Ruru is also standing up and performing for his team. He's had a tough ask of it holding in the B side, which has been where much of the attack has come from for Team Enemy, but Els and Ocean need to be chiming in as well. You can see Enemy forcing the issue again, no surprise. This is, I think, the third or fourth time so far this match, would you believe, but moving very quickly here towards the A side, but Twist, he hears it all, and very, very quickly he's going to be hot on the heels to get that lurk happening.
And they are not messing about. They are straight into this A site. So that lurk they'll need to eliminate. Of course, Twist has to make himself known to find that frag on Akusta. Finds a second one as well. So doing great work already, picking up the triple. And immediately pressure straight on to enemy mainline though. Settles to score. Eliminates at least one of the CTs and now just lucky to contend with there in the toilets. Has good position, but of course has 3 CTs breathing down his neck, not able to do too much in that situation. The bomb will be defused, of course, not having a kit, but that doesn't matter at all because they were so quick on that retake, the pressure immediately being put on the Ts by the CTs.
Yeah, fantastic work. Even though that essentially the terrorists got into the A bomb site unchallenged, it was more so the positioning there from Invert at long and also Twist as he pushed through the toilets there on that flank that gave them all the information that they needed to pincer the site. Fantastic triple kill by Twist, continuing in his hot form that we've seen so far from him tonight. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him so far in this CounterPit competition because if he continue this, we got some great action coming your way. We can see that Jim Enemy again, forcing the issue in terms of the economy. I guess off the back of that plant, they can just afford to do so, but it's getting to the situation now where surely you want an AWP in Kusta's hands. He's only AWP'd 1 round so far in the entire terrorist half.
That's it. They really need to get that AWP into his hands because he's so devastating with the AWP, as we've seen before so many times. As Ocean now sitting at long will have a little bit of information at least as to where that T is going. They can't really hear too much going on. The Ts are doing a good job of just distributing themselves among the sites. And of course, as we can see via the overlay, they're making their way up mid. And towards this A site again, they will have some set smoke executes, I believe, onto this A site. So they're going to need to defend once more SKDC, but they've done such a good job in rounds gone by.
We'll see how they go this time. Twist has got the first onto Uber, so at least mission is successful so far for the guys. You can see that wall of smokes though, I mean, should allow the terrorists to plan here, but not much else in the way of map territory, because the CTs are breathing down the necks all over that bomb site. Els gets another one, all of a sudden mainline steps out, drops one, he needs to get another one though. Lucky's already got one, but it's still a 2-on-3 situation, and Twist is at that bomb site, knows the position of mainline, he'll communicate that to his team, and as a result he gets taken down with ease, and all left up to do for Relics. He's still on 1-on-3, taking down the first. Position is known, flashes though are thrown towards his way, a little bit too deep, grabs the second, and get the 30 strafing in and out, but no. Twist there, or Ocean I should say, in the end, does get the drop onto him, and we'll get that defuse, but Enemy here, it's almost they're falling into this trap where these rounds are so close, but it's almost enticing them to keep on buying, but in the end they're almost hurting their chances because their best weapon in the team, Kusta, can't get an AWP in his hands. When you're going into a round with Kusta with a D-Door or Kusta with a Tech-9, that threat isn't at the same level for SKDC. And I'm also surprised, by the way, that they're still persisting with A. They had so much success early on in the half getting into the B side and getting the bomb down. Why have they gone away from that?
Really, you can only sort of cite stubbornness as a way of explaining that, but of course you're right, they're having a lot of success with B. I'm not too sure why they sort of decided to go away from that. Great running Tech-9 headshot from Kusta on the invert, and will be able to pick himself up a gun, as unfortunately he gets taken down by Ruru, and then somehow manages to get the Molotov frag on to Ruru as a revenge. So just that lasting legacy from Kusta living on into this round. But of course that bomb has gone down at A, and the last 2 CTs are trapped, and they will have to retake from the CT stairs here. So Ocean and Els are going to be called into action. Unfortunately, mainline, great position there at the truck, able to spray them both down, forcing them both out of the same choke point in that smoke. So good work from Enemy. They really do have the jump on their opponents at the moment, and you just feel as though they're starting to get back into this match.
Well, whilst they won the round at A in that instance, at last I'll have you know, The reason they won the round was because they got frags at B early on. They got 2 kills there. Kuster with the Molotov kill. And I don't know how he got that. But also the Tech 9 frag as well. And that forced the rotation off the A bomb site and allowed that easier passageway into it for team enemies. So that was the key thing. I don't like the fact that they've gone away from what's working here and are going back towards A. Fortunately, at least for their sake, SKDC are on eco. So it makes the frags a little bit easier. Invert there does go down after taking 1. But Ocean, bit of menace there. Drops 1 in the stairwell, falling. Kneeling onto the head of Relics before getting taken down by Mainline. But as we move on to this next gun round, I'm hoping and praying for enemy's perspective that at least, even if they want to go A, that at least please put pressure on B early on, because that's what's getting them the most success at the moment.
Yeah, as we questioned why they were going away from that B site and really just focusing on A, where they've had very little success, I think the key for me is the fact that the CTs can get so close to that bomb site so early on, so they literally have to outlast 40 seconds. There's no real chance for them to try and play the bomb timer at all when they plant at A, because the CTs are literally there breathing down their neck by the time that they plant that bomb. So good work so far from enemy, just picking up the frags across the map, but of course time will tell whether or not it's a good start.
Yeah, we have seen a 1-for-1 exchange. Interesting to see the Inverts actually rocking out with a Zeus as well. Meanwhile, he uses a Scout, so he can frag with anything it seems. But at the moment, at 3-on-3, but Jim, I'm shaking my head as to why enemy have slowed down the pace and are going A, as you said. Lucky for them, they have managed to get that frag, no pun intended, onto Invert in that instance, but Ruru is well positioned, or should be at least at the trade frag. He made that look a lot more difficult than it should have been. And in the end, with only 1 point of HP, that grenade will be enough to finish him off.
Oh, and any grenade would have been enough there. I think a decoy would have killed him at that HP.
Flash grenade. Smoke grenade as well, if it dinked him. Yeah, but in any case, Ocean here, forced to 1v2. What he does have going for him, though, good positioning. He is coming from those mid-toilets. I'm not sure if they'll be aware of the threat. Lucky is, though, has the peace of mind to check behind him. Does get tagged down very low, though. So Kuster on 30, Lucky on 6. They'll plant for CT spawn to at least give them that edge, but Kuster's flushed down there with a great Molotov, coming down seconds too late. Otherwise, it could have taken down Kuster before the bomb was planted. In Ocean, whilst he has a lot more HP, doesn't have that same position or information that perhaps he would have liked. You can see him there scouting out the site from on top of the bomb box. Somehow makes it towards that bank there with a lot of safety, and really, time is ticking by here. I don't know how he's still alive, dancing around. Taps the bomb. Kuster ducking behind the garbage bin. Please just shoot him. He's just asking to be fragged. In the end, he will drop him. Taps the defuse. Lucky moves out off the back of that and will take him down. But Ocean had every opportunity in the world to win that 1-on-2. The terrorists were asking to be fragged there, showing so much skin, begging to be shot. And in the end, Ocean just had too much humility, too much kindness. He just couldn't do that to them.
Kuster just doing his best Oscar the Grouch impression from Sesame Street, just hiding in that dumpster ever so well. Just I'm not too sure. Ocean will be shaking his head as to what's gone on.
Do they have Sesame Street in America? I don't know if they
came from America.
Reference.
Come on, Nick.
Good.
Come on.
I don't know that. Well, in any case, we do see SKDC on eco and getting some frags. Again, keeping the pressure on enemy here. Enemy struggling to have an easy round. It's all coming down to the wire, and again, it's a 2-on-2 situation. But off the back of that presence and pressure from the CTs, both Ocean and Invert would have been spotted out at B. So they'll very, very quickly here. Enemy move on to the A side. Surprised actually to see them planting on that side of the bomb box. I think that's a very risky play. Planting the side on which the CTs will be coming from, as it was they were too far away to really capitalize and exploit that perhaps mistake or questionable decision is probably a better description. But 2-on-2, can they get the retake here, Jim?
I don't like their chances so far, but of course they are just taking their time. That longer bomb timer just allowing them, and we've seen it quite a lot of CTs taking their time, walking for the first 10 seconds, and of course, great spray there from Ocean, but that Molotov's going to really prevent his path, or clear path onto that A site. Of course, he's only able to save a gun and get out because that Molotov was perfectly placed. No, he will.
Oh, so close. Okay. Good HP management. Fair call.
Know your radiuses.
Know my radiuses. Okay. But it's 7-6 to enemy. I mean, you look at the scoreboard. They've actually strung 4 rounds together here in a row. It's surprising to me to actually see Lucky actually leading the way in frags. It's something that we haven't seen so far in this competition. I mean, I know that he's the lurker of the team. Had a bit of reputation for what we could see.
By the way, it's terrible.
We'll see what happens there. But Lucky is the one standing up at the moment and coming alive, trying to claw his team's chances back into this match. And Mainline doing a good job of just that as well. As he does get the opening frag there. Twist does retaliate, but one's going to have to be enough for him as he does go down there at the hands of Uber. So whilst Relic is making a bit of a distraction at the B side, do not be deceived. The Bomb and his teammates are certainly going towards A, and I think SKDC will now realise that, as poor old Els is the lone member in the A side, the lone wolf, and he has been put out of his misery as Uber does get his second for the round there. But the fast rotation meant that the Bomb wasn't able to get planted initially. They had to fake the plant, get the frag, and in the end, Uber has a great round there with a nice 4K, surviving with 2 points of health, and Enemy doing a good job of closing out this half, really nullifying that early start that SKDC got off to.
Interesting for me was that Bomb was actually prevented from being planted by the smallest amount of Molotov you could imagine. So right in the crux of that bomb box was the smallest amount of flame you can possibly imagine, and it was doing damage to the bomb planter.
A little matchbox, a little tiny little fire causing worries. But at the moment, Relic is also causing his own fire, so to speak, as he rips into the B side and grabs 2. And Ruru there with a nice little flank from stairs, letting them go past before he steps down and grabs 2. So all of a sudden, again, another 2-on-2 sort of situation. These rounds are so close, and SKDC don't be a little bit disappointed by the fact that they're putting up such a good showing, but don't really have the rounds to show for it. Kusta there getting that frag, and at the moment, I think he's a little bit unsure. Now that Twist position is known in the A side, Mainline's probably made the call for Kusta to go back towards B and leave him on his own to die. Don't try and save him, leave him be, and Kusta will make his way in towards the B side. He'll get the plant, and Jim Twist is going to have to go for a retake. We've seen him be so strong. He's already got 19 frags. Can he win this for the team?
He's certainly putting in a shift for his team, isn't he, at the moment with that AWP and post-player position. I don't know if Twist has actually spotted him there. He does actually spot him there. Of course, Kusta not able to escape that spray of Twist. Twist is actually one of the more promising players from SKDC. If you have a look at that scoreboard, he's put in 20 frags in the first half. As we said, though, unfortunately, he's carrying the remaining few members of his team. They are simply but passengers in this best of 3. Or best of 2, should I say.
When you've got players such as Twist in particular, but also Invert on the last map, when they're going off and going ham, normally you'd think you'd be setting yourself up so well for a victory, but the fact is that they're still struggling to even get ahead on the scoreboard off the back of these players. Really, I think, signals to me, I think, the difference in skill level and gameplay between these two teams, which is fair. I think that's what the reasonable expectation was coming into this match, but you can't help but feel a little bit sorry for Twist when he looks at the scoreboard and sees how well he's doing, but still sees that his team is trailing, as we see Enemy now, of course, switch into the CT side, and they've had so much success on CT Overpass recently. You only have to look back at about their performance against Winterfox. They got 11 or 12 rounds on CT just the other day, and they'll be looking to emulate that success right now.
It's no easy feat, certainly that, of course, a fast start here from SKDC, sending members, of course, over to the playground, and they're going to continue up into the park as, of course, Kusta does a little bit of investigatory work, putting on his Sherlock Holmes cap. Of course, in the meantime, they're frolicking all the way up long into those toilets, and will now put pressure perhaps down those stairs. If Kusta's not careful, he could actually miss these guys entirely. They're going to make their way down the stairs in the connector. Kusta, though, is timing it, and will only try and shoot a few in the back there, I'd imagine, as they make their way onto this B site. Good work from Enemy, just picking up those frags early on. Elzo is able to try and find at least one frag if they are going to continue into this B site. Of course, Els is traded out by Uber. Good work from him, and now Ocean, the only one left with some hope for SKDC. That bomb, though, is nowhere near him to be found, and Uber just putting the finishing touches on a good round for Enemy.
When I reflect on that pistol round strategy from SKDC, it just, to me, signifies that they'd come into that pistol round with a clear intent of what they wanted to do, and they weren't willing to change it up. That was to rush up long, go through the toilets, downstairs to B. Had they recognised the fact that there had been no presence or pressure at all from Enemy at A side, perhaps that could convince them to go A. As it was, they ended up going B and running into a stack from Enemy. I think that was more so the players so intent on sticking to a strat more so than, I guess, reading into the information which Enemy was giving them that round, and that was the fact that there weren't many players at all at A. We can see SKDC here, though, forcing the issue, buying Tech 9s and armor. They have got the drop onto Lucky. Of course, we said that Lucky had been fragging quite well so far this match for his team, but in this case, at least, he has gone down without much of a resistance. SKDC find themselves now in the B side. They get the drop onto Uber. It's now a 2-on-2 situation. But this flank from Kusta, this is perfectly timed. This should catch them out, even if the bomb goes down first, which it does. Should still be well positioned, surely, or at least I thought it was, to catch them off guard. Ruru has other ideas there, swiveling on a dime and getting a nice little double there, and SKDC show that they still have some life in them yet.
Ruru says no. That's exactly what Ruru says about that. Kusta was in great position, but Ruru was even quicker on the trigger, of course, picking up the final 2 frags in that round. But more concerning for me was Enemy continue that trend of just losing anti-ecos.
I think they're going to be one of the worst anti-eco teams that we've seen in North America, for as talented as they are. I think at the moment, it's almost got to that point where it's all mental for them, that they're struggling to just close out these rounds. Twist doing a good job there. Entry frag and take down Kusta. The B site now empty. They realise that. The bomb will get planted. Enemy, you can see, just have some P250s, and they'll be looking to do as much damage as they can, but at the moment, the damage is getting dealt by Ruru. The man with all the hops in his step at the moment, channeling his inner kangaroo, as Jim referred to earlier. And SKDC he's bouncing around. Well, at the moment, 9 all's the score, and SKDC, they just show some life at the moment, some energy within the team.
That injection of energy is doing them well, as they do now level the scores with Enemy, 9-all. And again, that lack of composure against the anti-ecos has really hurt Enemy. I think we've only ever seen them navigate their way through an anti-eco once, and that was on Cache, on their CT side.
That's actually probably pretty close to being on point. I don't think that's an exaggeration. We can see they have opted just to buy pistols now, so I'm happy with that. They don't have armor. At least they can afford to buy some good weaponry next round. Get that AWP in Kusta's hands, and they're going to need to, I think, because really he hasn't AWPed for much of this map, and we spent about 5 minutes in the pre-game talking about how Overpass was a map more than any other in the map pool, bar perhaps Dust 2, that lends itself well to AWPing, and there's no excuse in my mind, as we see Kusta did a cheeky little frag there, that Kusta shouldn't be AWPing for the majority of this map. Mainline, Kusta, Relics, they're all still trying to put pressure. Relics in particular has an SMG. Now, he has no use for that weapon next round. He's, I guess, willing and free to throw his life away at the expense of trying to get a frag or two, get that SMG money bonus. They can see, though, that Kusta, he's the one doing the damage at the moment, gets his second for the round, but Invert should have a field day, mowing them up there at the sandbags, and SKDC take the lead. Enemy now move towards the first gun round. Kusta, I mean, can he buy the AWP? He's got 5.2. It might be a glass cannon, should he so decide, but no. I like this. They've actually opted to juggle around those weapons. Mainline, they're making the sacrifice. Good decision.
Always your in-game leader, seemingly martyring. It's either themselves, their lives, or their economy to try and get the key weapons in key players' hands. So, of course, Kusta now has that AWP, and Invert, his opposite number on this SKDC lineup, has the AWP as well. So, I do believe they're going to go toe-to-toe. It's just a question of where they put that AWP. I do believe it's actually up at the A side. As we've seen, some aggression from the CTs. They have a great amount of information. Know that aggressive position from Kusta with the AWP would be telegraphing, surely, that there's not much going on over at the A site just yet.
That's right. It's allowing Enemy to play 3 members in the B site. Mainline as well, just playing near the stairs. So he'd have that fast rotation towards B as well. Might come across Ocean if he's not careful, and that he is not. That clever positioning there from Ocean, actually looking above the smoke, got the drop there onto Mainline. Uber doing a good job, but his Twist gets a TK onto Ocean. That is the worst possible timing on the first gun round, if any I've seen one, to be, I guess, shooting your teammates in the head, and all left up to do for Invert. And as he goes down, surely the teammates will be asking themselves, Ocean in particular, what were you thinking, Twist?
Yeah, that's unfortunate too, because if you look at the scoreboard, Twist is the one putting in the frags. I mean, quite literally putting in the frags. Doesn't matter.
He's fragging anything, Jim.
Doesn't matter what's happening. He's putting in the frags. So, of course, robbed, I feel.
Well, that's right. We do see Kusta now persisting with that aggressive AWP. Doesn't quite connect there. We're disappointed with that, but at least for his sake, gets the information that they're there, and he can back off safely and reposition himself. But Ruru causing a bit of a ruckus towards the B side. Lucky there, unlucky not to hit that frag. Whilst he was blind, that spray looked to be on him for me, but we do see Kusta has positioned himself at long, and this time does connect onto the shot there. That's an easy 10 out of 10 shot that Kusta will make every day of the week right there, but Invert does get that retaliation frag. Kusta is down, and we now find Enemy on the back foot again. Lucky, Mainline, and Uber, the 3 surviving members, and they're split up. Look at the overlay at the moment. They're nowhere to be seen, so one of these members is really going to have to step up and make a good individual play here. Otherwise, this could be going the way of SKDC from their perspective. They just need to regroup and just overwhelm the site with numbers, but they're positioning themselves here, Jim, for a B execute.
And it's all going to be on Lucky, I'd imagine, as he does counter flash into that monster tunnel. Does not manage to get a frag, unfortunately. The show rolls on without him, and they're going to make their way into this B site. As now they've been locked out, those smokes are very effective in creating a nice little wall for them to get that plant and just position themselves around. I don't like SKD, should I say, enemy's chances of retaking this site. SKDC have done a great job in getting in there, but more importantly, it's up now to these two to try and save their guns. Ocean does find one with that frag at Playground, and just one remaining CT left. Uber needs to try and save this weapon. Of course, he's not in a fantastic position himself. That T-net is closing. He has been found out and unfortunately will fall there as he stands in park. That economy has been absolutely ruined.
Yeah, I didn't like that repick from Kusta. I mean, he got that drop, that nice frag there at long from, I guess, spotting out from the toilet's locker room area, but repicked and was punished by inverts. And I think that in the context of that round, that really hurt his team. And you can see that they're all strapped for cash. Kusta in particular, I mean, he's so far off being able to afford an AWP at the moment, 1.4k. And enemy here, starting to get very, very worrisome for this team. This is a must-win match for these guys if they want to have any chance of securing that first place and getting that trip to Croatia. And they currently find themselves now at a deficit, 11-10 in favour of SKDC, and really potentially a few other easier rounds going the way of SKDC, given the fact that enemy were strapped for cash, at least for the next 1 or 2 rounds, unless they can come up with something magical. But as it is, Truster gets punished there. Nice and easy frag there by Ocean, just easily tapping away at his head there, using that distance that the AK does provide and that long tunnel way in the stairs mid-con area. At the moment, the SKDC just taking their time, and I really like this from them. There's no urgency. Mainline does spot out one, but Jim, this is just business as usual for SKDC this round.
Just business as usual. They're taking their time, clearing all the angles, making sure they're not going to get any nasty surprises as they make their way towards that B site. Of course, there is one man, or now 2 men, positioned in the B site, just making their way around. All 3 of them now, putting all their eggs in one basket. And that looks to be where the action's going to go down. So potential disaster here for enemy is Uber burns alive at the toxic barrels there. An attempted spam there from Invert. Funnily enough, it doesn't quite go the way, but of course the P250 cleaning things up, and they do survive another round and edge themselves closer to taking the 1-all in this best of 2. Now, the tactical pause, I do believe, has come out. That has actually been called by the coach. So, coach getting it done.
Yeah, good call by the coach. So, Ryu, obviously an ex-player in North America, but the worrying thing for me, and when I look back on this match, the key thing for me is the fact that enemy's money management has been horrible. I mean, the biggest indicator of that is the fact that Kusta hasn't had that AWP in his hands for much of the match at all. I think you can only look back and perhaps maybe 3 or 4 rounds out of, 22 has he had that AWP in his hands, just by pure fact that on Terra's side, they were so close to breaking SKDC's economy off the back of some really close rounds at B that they kept force buying over and over and over again, just trying to get that 1 round win in which they would reset the money of SKDC. But because they never quite got that win, you constantly had Kusta with a Tech 9 or a Deagle or even potentially an AK in his hands, best case scenario, but never that AWP. And I think that when they reflect back on the match, they'll be really disappointed, I think, with potentially that money management. On the CT side, he's already used it once, but definitely wouldn't be able to afford it this round. For me, I think that if you're enemy, you really have to roll the dice here and eco. I think that's the better play. I think whilst you're down 12-10, I'd like to see them just eco and at least look forward to fully equipping the team, getting the AWP in his hands, getting the support grenades on the other players in the team, and then just back in the confidence and trust that you have in your teammates to be able to string together 6 rounds in a row from there on out. I think you have to at least eco this round and give SKDC that next leg up to 13 rounds.
Surely they're going to be discussing something similar to that in their team chat at the moment, obviously utilising the full amount of time with that tactical pause. That's certainly something they need to, because as we said, they're looking rather uninspired and definitely look a lot more comfortable when Kusta has that AWP in his hands. So wouldn't be surprised to see that come into play there. It's just maybe a question of who's going to take the financial hit. Obviously Mainline and Kusta are in good position here economically to do so, as well as Relics too. So just as we see Kusta actually going for that full eco.
Good. I'm happy to see that. I mean, let's not forget, if you look at the scoreboard, you look at the early stages of the match, Team Enemy were up at 1 point. If I just count it out quickly, they were up, I think, 8-6. They now find themselves down 10-12, if my maths is correct. So really, they were in a strong position, but they've let it slip a little bit, let it slide. So I think they're going to be a little bit disappointed with how this match is unfolded, but it looks as though the unpause now will eventuate, and we'll see what the players can produce. Again, Massive shout out to Twist, Invert, even Ruru now stepping up big time on this overpass match. They were the key fraggers last map, even though they went down, and they kept up that hot form. From an enemy perspective, really, everyone just sort of equally performing, so to speak, but it's really Kusta that you've come to expect some big things from him, so you're a little bit surprised when you see the scoreboard and see him there or thereabouts with his other teammates. But what can they produce? They have opted to eco here. A couple of the members who had a little bit more cash have bought armor and perhaps a nade or two, so at least they have something to work with here, Jim. But as they stack towards the B site and SKDC move towards A, from the initial stages, it doesn't look promising for enemy.
Of course, that can turn on a dime in an instant. I mean, it only takes a few frags here and there for things to really get out of hand, particularly on a map like Overpass where the rotation between the sites for the CTs is very, very short. So Ts need to make a good read here. And I think, for me, key in this round is going to be the decisiveness with which they hit a particular site.
We'll see how they go at the moment. Obviously, they're just taking their time, scouting it out. You can see 3 members moving up towards long. There's no battle to be seen on the overlay for at least quite some time. Kusta's probably the nearest counter-terrorist in which they might come by, but he's still back towards the A site. Ruru, though, he's the key member just trying to stand out B, and he'll see off the back of that pressure that's been applied and the HE nade that followed suit shortly after that there's at least 1 or 2 members towards the B site. So he'll communicate that to his team. You can see now SKDC, I think, off the back of that info, moving with a little bit more intent up towards the A side at the moment. Those smokes and flashes getting laid down inside the A bomb site to at least make their transition into the site, should they choose to do so, easier. But it looks as though potentially it was just the fake as we see them now funneling down the stairwell back towards B, where Ruru is lying in wait.
Surprise, says Twist as he gets into that A site. Of course, he's just cleaning up here. Nice easy entries as they go and make things look very, very easy. Of course, Lucky might actually pick up a frag here in the B site. That bomb, though, is with Invert, so he's actually potentially put himself in harm's way there with only getting out of that by the skin of his teeth. He was the only man at that B site. So
that's right, and there was only about 10 seconds left, Jim. There was 10 seconds left. That was a do-or-die situation, and Invert, that was essentially a 1-on-2 because his teammate was nowhere to be seen. Massive play.
Yeah, look, it was a sketchy play. I'll put it that way.
Massive that he won.
Massive that he won, but of course a very sketchy decision to go into that site. Of course, solo with the bomb with such low round timer left. But of course, now a buy coming out from enemy. More importantly, that AWP in Kusta's hand. So let's just see what he can do with his AWP.
They did send him very early on towards the A fountain. Now, whilst there was no one there from SKDC, it allows enemy to stack 4 members towards the B side here. So you can see Lucky, Mainline, Uber, and Relics all positioned well. So they've got a strong defense here, and look at that cheeky little boost there. Unfortunately for Lucky, he took quite a lot of damage there for what looked to be an easy frag, but crucially, there's now only 1 choke point to be concerned about. You can see all of SKDC grouped up at that entrance to Monster Tunnel. Invert just trying to back off and just make sure there's no flank, but he has an AWP in hand, not necessarily the best gun to be trying to cover backs or at least taking close quarter duels. You want him in there getting those AWP frags, and at the moment, it will be up to 4 members of SKDC to make their way into B.
They're going to need to win those early trades as well. So Els is going to be the man tasked with making the entry through the Monster Tunnel there. He does make his way up, and of course, Invert has made his way in with that AWP as well. So good to see him in the action, not just holding backs. Uber opens the account though, and really preventing him from getting into the site. Great double from him. Twist is trying his hardest to make things happen here at the B, so he does find a second frag as well. We need to find a third, potentially a fourth as well, not able to do so. Mainline holding strong, and enemy inching themselves closer into this match, of course, closing that gap.
Oh, that was so close from Twist there. He nearly took down Mainline, and then anything could have happened in that 1-on-1 situation. But crucially for enemy, obviously the fact that they won the round is massive, but Kusta kept that AWP in hand, so it doesn't need to rebuy. It helps to at least stimulate his economy so that potentially if they do lose a round, they can afford to buy that superior weaponry. You can see they're opting to go for that 1A, 4B setup from a CT perspective. Kusta, the lone man tasked with locking down the A fountain and long A at the same time, and it's a tough ask for any player, but at least you'd be pinning your hopes on your star player to do it for you. You can see that there's 3 terrorists making their way towards A at the moment, Els, Twist, and Invert. Meanwhile, Ocean and Ruru just keeping an eye on things in the mid-con and B areas respectively. Kusta will back off though, just so we can keep an eye on both of those angles at once with a little bit more ease here, Jim.
In the meantime, the Ts are actually making their way up towards A. And Ruru, I'm not too sure what he was trying to achieve by flashing himself through a very, very tight choke point with the smoke. So he falls quite early, and more importantly, they eliminate the threat of any sort of flank on this B site. So a little bit more comfortable here at the B site for enemy, as SKDC look to execute on this A site.
Well, that's right. Let's see how fast the CT rotation will be, though, because, like you said, it was just Trista. Fortunately for them, Relics has now come to support his AWPer, but the smokes and flashes are being laid down. They've made a great wall there, which should allow the terrorists to at least push up towards those bomb boxes. What can they do, though? Relics in the corner does a fantastic job there of catching one off guard. Ills it is that does fall, and now SKDC wasting so much time and energy trying to spam and clear out these corners in which there's no one actually there. But meanwhile, Lucky on the flank, he needs to take down a few because his teammates in the side are falling. We find ourselves in a 2-on-2 situation. Ocean it is, does spot out Relics at the bank, has the peace of mind to turn around as well. So Lucky the flanker has gone down. All of a sudden it's left up to Relics in a 1-on-2. Ocean and Invert set up a great little crossfire, and that Molotov makes it ever so difficult. He has to charge on through, and Invert gets the frag and gets the 14th round on the board for SKDC. An enemy went from a position of strength in a 5-on-4, having men at both sites, to really riffing and blowing that A defense there.
And the economy reset. That's the most important thing for me. Enemy have had their economy reset on this crucial round, and really they're forced to eco here, just some upgraded pistols on each side, but that's heartbreaking for these guys because so late in the game having your economy reset on your CT side can just really just seal things, and of course losing that key round, and they'll be kicking themselves for doing so.
That's right, but I mean, all hope isn't lost yet. I mean, with the talented individuals that they've got on this team, they can still definitely make it work for them if they eco this and then try and string 4 rounds together to take it into overtime. But massive job here by SKDC. You can see Twist on the verge of another 30 bomb. He's got 29 kills at the moment. Ruru does get taken down quite early. I like that, I guess, group attack, that group think from Team Enemy, I think is the common term there, as they really bullied that player away from B, and it's forced the hand of SKDC as they move towards A side. But Twist, Invert, and Ruru, for the most part, have just been absolutely unleashed in this second map and put the team and themselves in a winning position here. The bomb will get planted. Twist brings up his 30 bomb. What a night he's had. Make it 31, and he's still hungry. He wants some more, and I think as his teammates lay down some covering smokes and flashes, it should set himself up well for potentially getting that next frag, and straight around the box. Can't quite convert it though, as Uber does take him down in the end. But the last man alive, Lucky, isn't alive for much longer there, as Enemy find themselves looking at death's edge here. 15-11, SKDC 4 match points. Can they do this? Can they level the score 1-1?
Important for me is the impact frags that are coming out of Twist. They're not. His 30 bomb obviously has a good composition of frags in there, but he's entering into these sites, getting the frags, opening things up, and really just enabling SKDC on this terrorist side to run amok. And that's exactly what they're doing as they decide to take early sewer control. And they're going to be met with some resistance in there, I believe, as Uber actually cleans up a double. So good work from him early on, giving them a man advantage. We're looking for that third as well. He's able to find it, so great work from him. And hopefully on the back of his hard work, Enemy will be able to survive a little bit longer.
That's right, you can see that really SKDC forced to sort of regroup here. They find themselves in a 4-on-2 situation. Fantastic work there by Uber to get those opening 3 frags in such an important round in the context of this match. You can see that SKDC splitting apart now, slowly making their way towards A. I think from their sake, Jim, it'd be important if potentially they could get, perhaps even if they don't win the round, if they could get maybe 2 more frags and leave potentially only 2 CTs alive. That's always the golden number that we talk about, where your CT win loss, your CT win amount doesn't quite cover your losses, and it can be quite difficult to keep affording weaponry and utility if only 2 members do survive. And that'll be the objective at the moment as SKDC do move up towards the A site. Invert with an open hand, and Ocean here, Jim, has that AK. We'll spot out 1 member there. Kuster it is towards the truck, so he'll communicate that, but I like this play from Kuster, just hiding. Body is time, but as it is, he'll need to now do some fighting because his teammate Mainline's gone down, and so is he. All of a sudden, it's turned around. It's a 2-on-2. They've got control of the bomb site here. The bomb should get planted. Now, whilst Uber is coming from spawn, let's keep an eye on Relics. He is flanking here. Can he catch Invert off guard? Invert has the peace of mind, spots him out there, but crucially, Relics has gone into the toilets to give himself some cover. We find ourselves now in a 2-on-2. Threat from both sides here for SKDC to be concerned about, but as it is, they do pencil the side and retake it well. Good job there. At least for 1 more round, they push on, but that got very, very dangerous for them. From a 4-on-2 situation to a 2-on-2 retake.
They quickly, I guess, degraded the situation in favour of enemy, and of course able to get themselves back into this round. So good work getting onto the site and getting the entries, but of course that flank was instrumental. It was spotted out though, so I think I believe it was Invert that missed that AWP shot onto the flank. Would have been kicking himself, because as a result now they're having to play another round in this matchup. Of course, things getting slightly easier for the CTs. Their economy isn't being pressured as much as we now see GoTV just skip a little bit forward, but nonetheless not really any action taking place.
That's right, still on 5-on-5. You can see minute 20 still left on the clock. SKDC still in a really strong position here. They can afford that AWP in the hands of Invert. They've got still plenty of utility grenades and rifles to speak of. It's really the pressure still on enemy here. Do they have what it takes, this young team, to be able to put together another 3 really complete, composed rounds to force the overtime here? Of course, this was their map choice. They won cash. This was their choice though here, overpass. We find Ocean in the mid-con, just patrolling the stairs, covering the flanks, but his teammates meanwhile moving up towards A. Now crucially, Jim, Kusta and Mainline are very deep in the A site. There was no early aggression from those two members, so they don't have a read that potentially SKDC are coming their way. So the rotation time might be a little bit longer here as enemy are forced to bring back members to the A site whilst Kusta and Mainline are under the pump.
The bomb plant will come in, and Ruru is the man that's trying to get himself in a better position over near the truck, so he will come face to face, spraying to try and get that frag. Unfortunately not able to do so, but he's just making his dash around the bomb boxes here, delaying the CTs ever so slightly. They're great frag from Invert, covering his teammate quite well, but Ruru is just again menacing around these bomb boxes in a forward position, not able to find another frag here, but of course Els finding the final frag onto Uber, and that seals the deal. It is a 1-1 draw in this CounterPit best of 2. They share the points tonight, Nick.
Fantastic work there by SKDC. I mean, first and foremost, massive congratulations to those guys. I think they came into this competition as the definite underdogs. I think most people probably would have written off their chances when they were looking at the teams in which they were coming up against. But those guys didn't let that affect them. They played a fantastic map there and really controlled the economy and had their way. I loved how composed they were. I love the fact that obviously they were putting themselves in a position to succeed. Twist went absolutely ballistic, but Ruru as well, Invert, they were all chiming in. And let's not forget that Invert had that unenviable task of matching up with Kusta with the AWP in hand, or at least on paper. As we saw, Kusta didn't have the AWP in hand very often at all, and I think that was the ultimate downfall there for enemy. I think when they walked away from this match, there's big question marks over there in the decision-making in terms of managing the economy. I think they have a few things to think about moving forward. Obviously, so much potential in the team, but those are the sort of decisions and scenarios in which we still see perhaps that inexperience shining through from them. But 1-1, I think it was a fantastic night. We've seen 2 1-1s tonight. So 4 maps across the CounterPit scene and some great Counter-Strike action.
Yeah, more importantly for me was in both matchups, teams had the opportunity to take those 2-0s and get maximum points from their encounters. And as we've seen from the bracket, and I'll quickly just switch to that, a team that potentially just wins out the rest of their matches could take this. So, I mean, at the moment, it's anybody's bracket. So, of course, playing for that ultimate prize of going overseas to split Croatia for the World Finals there. $80,000 on the line. They'll be joining Elite Company as well. So I believe they'll be joining TSM, or former TSM, Australis now. Envious, Virtus Pro, and I do believe Na'Vi is the invited team. Of course, Team Immunity winning out the Oceania League, and they'll all be waiting to see who wins this North American League. It's anybody's at the moment, but of course it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm sure you've had as much fun